or RTE Sean Gallagher. It's the 15th of October 2023. You're very welcome back to my channel. I posted a video on the 2011 Irish presidential elections where I said that Sean Gallagher, an independent candidate, was bushwhacked by a combination of Sinn Féin leader Martin McGuinness and Pat Kenny of RTE. I made a good lot of mistakes. I've made it private. I think it's not good enough. It doesn't meet the standard. And one of the great helps I've received was a post from Appalled Paul 5497, who posts, "Fair play to Sean Gallagher in successfully suing RTE." So he doesn't dispute that he sued. And that's in the media. It's accepted. "There were many controversial aspects to the show that night." Yes, agreed. "Sean presented himself as an independent candidate. However, it became clear that he had deep connections with Fianna Fáil and was employed at that time as their bagman," to quote Pat Kenny. Was he employed by them? But this is what they're saying. He was a bagman. You know what that means. A sidekick sort of person, or a stalking horse kind of candidate. "Sean initially denied his definite connection with Fianna Fáil, but Pat worked it out live on TV. That's all right, that's good journalism. The country recoiled at the thought of an obvious cute whore president after the Bertie debacle. A cute whore in Ireland is not the usual meaning of whore. It means a smart arse person, always watching for his moves and trying to be a smart fella and getting ahead through knavery and political influence and all that. So, a cute whore president. After the Bertie debacle, there was a big inquiry into Bertie Ahern. He's still alive, and the shenanigans he was at. He didn't even have a bank account, and people were disgusted with Fianna Fáil at the time. And I still am. The Bertie debacle. Too much too soon, even for the Irish. In other words, once it was discovered he was Fianna Fáil hack, that was it. Now, I'm not so sure. I didn't quite gather that, but it must be remembered that Fianna Fáil had a huge support, and still have, in Ireland. They knew what they were getting in. No, sorry, no, it's too much for the Irish. The Irish knew what they were getting with Midgley. That's Michael D. Higgins. Okay, so that's the comment from a Paul, and a very good one. He's a great contributor here to this channel. Now, the first thing I will say is that it was quite right to tease out any connections he had to any political party, or to show that he was some way a bagman or whatever. It was quite right to do that. No problem there. But that's not the main point that I saw wrong. Martin McGuinness was a leader of the IRA. We have to remind people, and I do it because the people I speak about are in their graves. Garda Jerry McCabe, Garda Seamus, Detective Garda Seamus Quaid, Garda Gary Sheehan, a policeman, a young guard, a young recruit, and Private Patrick Kelly of the Irish Army, among many others, were killed by the Provisional IRA. This is not the breakaway wings, this is themselves. And they robbed the Northern Bank in the north of £32 million sterling. £32 million sterling in cash. However, Martin McGuinness went on to partake in the peace process and brought the IRA round to peace and to the destruction of the weapons. And I think throughout all his activities with IRA and all that, he had a goal, was to bring about peace. And when he started it, he fairly did it. And he tied up with Dr. Ian Paisley, the Unionist leader, and he was the Deputy First Minister. And in that time was one of the golden ages of politics in the North. They both worked hard as they could to provide government for the North. So we have to give a balanced view. It probably took its toll on Martin McGuinness's health, and he died. And I can't say it was that, but it didn't help him anyway. He devoted his life that he could have been retired and doing things, and he loved fishing and all that. And I'm sure this took away a lot of his time to serve the people. So we give a fair analysis. But anyway, in the middle of the debate, he hit about him being a bagman for Fianna Fáil, but he said that Sean Gallagher ran an event or was involved in an event in County Louth in Dundalk, and that it was a fundraiser for Fianna Fáil, and Gallagher tended to distance himself from this Fianna Fáil thing, and the public sort of said, well, he doesn't seem to be too honest there. So the next thing, McGuinness hit him with the fact that an anonymous person told him that after the event, Sean Gallagher called to a private house, collected a photograph of the event, which is nothing big about that, but also a cheque donated for €5,000 for Fianna Fáil. Or indeed, he didn't actually say it was Fianna Fáil. He said he collected a cheque for €5,000. The public recoiled at that. They had a lot of this cheque business of brown envelopes from Fianna Fáil before, and this was a sort of a game changer. Now, who was this anonymous person? McGuinness described him as some kind of a border hoodlum, a diesel washer, converting agricultural diesel into road diesel, and that he was an unsavoury person. Now, that was a bit rich coming from McGuinness, because an awful lot of the hoodlums and the rich people who made money through the Troubles from robbing banks and robbing things like that were also high up in the IRA movement. We don't have to name them here. Okay. Now, did he receive the cheque or did he not? Because that meant that not alone did he go, but he actually was a big kingpin in collecting the money. Where did the money go? Now, Sean Gallagher was a Dragon's Den man, the same as Donald Trump was in America. I don't have much time for those type of programs. I don't see any of the great successful businesses we have in Ireland ever starting on Dragon's Den, Kingspan PLC, Tara Mines, Moffat Engineering, McHale Engineering, Malone Engineering, all top-class companies in the manufacturing field in the Republic of Ireland. None of them ever went near the Dragon's Den. I wouldn't give it too much weight. Now, also about political affiliation, Mike Pence and Donald Trump were both members of the American Democratic Party at one time. They switched. And my father was strong Fianna Fáil. And if Fianna Fáil had to behave properly, I'd still be involved. I didn't leave them, they left me. Now, Gallagher was entitled to go to politicians and do things. I worked as a project manager, and there's always a politician generally in charge of the local town and the local community development and all that sort of stuff, and you have to work with them. They're the government. I work with them, no problem. The project manager's job is to take the project, advise on its viability, and make sure it's done and done right, and keep it within the budget. And that can be quite a job, but that's your job. And the big thing in anything you do, and for me, there's no going back. If a wall is built and there's windows on the plan, the windows are put in when it's built, not when it's built, cut out with a console. The drainage, the electrics, the gas and all is done first, and then the concrete is poured. Now, in my case, that would happen probably anyway, but we see Dublin City Council digging up the road for years. They dig up the road for telecommunications, and the next thing they dig it up again for water. This kind of ridiculous thing, which boils my blood, and that's, as a project manager at the time I worked at it, that was a big thing with me, putting in proper septic tanks and sewer systems, a big issue on that, and doing it right. So that's the function of the project manager. But there'll be politicians over that, and you have to work with them. And that's your job. I wouldn't bother me in the least. It doesn't bother me. You have a job to do. Now, Gallagher would say that he was involved in Fianna Fáil to help young people, and he had a scheme to get young people involved in business and all of that. But that's not how it was painted. But the key was this cheque. Now, Dúirt fear lum go dúirt fear me. A man told me that a man told him. Martin McGuinness said that he met a man who said that McGuinness came to his house and collected the cheque for 5,000 and didn't say who it was made out to. The first thing that Gallagher responded with was, well, if it was done that way, it would be payable to Fianna Fáil. It wouldn't be payable to me. But hearsay evidence is not allowed. Evidence is all legal means exclusive of mere argument which tends to prove or disprove any matter of fact, the truth of which is exposed to judicial examination, and includes testimony, admissible hearsay, documents and things. So in a murder trial, producing the knife with blood still on it would be a thing. It's an exhibit. Now, in the case of what somebody says or hearsay, there are exceptions. A dying declaration where a person has given up all hope of recovery and makes a statement to say, I was stabbed by John Thomas Francie McGurty with a big hay knife, and he threw it in the ditch over there. And next thing your man dies. And he has to tell you he's dying. And he has to die. And that's persuasive evidence, but not conclusive evidence, because he could have an ulterior motive, right? The evidence of the person who registers births and deaths is admissible without them coming to court. The evidence of a lady who was assaulted sexually, was raped. It's expected she'd tell the first person she met, I'm after being raped by this rascal John Thomas Francie McGurty. I hope the McGurty people, there are McGurtys, I hope they understand my way of putting it. But that she's supposed to say that. If she doesn't say it, the first person she meets, it weakens her case. And indeed, anyone that's attacked should, to anyone they know, say, I'm after being attacked. That's admissible hearsay. It's not evidence of what was said, but it's evidence to corroborate that the victim, was telling the truth. Okay. Now, there's also, if a guard serves a summons, he makes a declaration under the Statutory Declarations Act of 1938. I served this summons on John Thomas McGurty at his home and signed, I sincerely say this is clear, this is true, and he signs it, and that's signed by a peace commissioner, and that is an offence if he tells a lie. If he's lying, he can be charged. If you make an affidavit, you have to swear it before a commissioner for oaths. And if you're caught telling lies, you can be charged. Okay, so those are the exceptions to hearsay. But in civil law, where we're talking about ditches and gates, the courts will normally accept an affidavit as evidence. But if there's a dispute, the parties have to be called. And so with this was hearsay. This was pure hearsay, and it was not admissible hearsay. RTE should have asked each candidate, are you bringing up evidence of any third party? Are you going to quote any third party? And if they don't mention it, then and they mention them on the show, this should be said. This person was asked, was he going to mention a third party? And he denied it. Now he's mentioned them. Moreover, when McGuinness was asked, he'd have to say, well, this person's down in County Louth, but I can't, he won't let you speak to him. That weakens the case big time. Moreover, Gallagher should have been told this is what's coming up and given an opportunity to rebut it. Supposing I'm brought on the Late Late Show some night and I'm making mincemeat of their electric cars, their windmills and their whole old green baloney and their carbon taxes, and the next thing they compare, the person doing the programme, the host, says, or somebody there, sure, no one should listen to this fella. This fella has cattle and he's farming cattle all his life. And he never has the vet out of his farm. And statistically, there has to be cattle that are ill. What he's doing is he's doing it himself. He's treating them without anaesthetic. He's a cruel man. He's not fit to talk about anything. If I'm hit with that, how do I rebut it? Well, I can say, oh, in the last 2 months, I had the vet out at my farm twice. The people might say, that's only, he's lying. But if I get a couple of days' notice, I can go in to the vet and get the invoice and show that the vet was out twice. I quote that as a rather poor example. But Sean Gallagher might well have been able to say, I called to the house, I got a photograph, I got no check. He might have been able to find out through Fianna Fáil what actually was paid or something like that. How can you do that and you standing on a programme, television channel, with the clock ticking and the election on the following couple of days? That is not professional. It was a bushwhacking. RTE wanted the president to win Michael D. Higgins because he was a member of the Labour Party. He was slightly woke and they wanted him and they didn't want any unknown party coming in. Higgins probably would have won anyway. Now, I hope I've made that relatively clear. Pulling a statement from an anonymous person described as what would you call him, as a shady character, a diesel launderer cleaning diesel to make it suitable for the road in colour, or some other person with a murky background, coming from Martin McGuinness, who was former chief of, big fella in the IRA, I'd not say chief of staff, I don't know what he was, but coming from anybody, means that even if this fella did tell him, even if this guy did tell him that Gallagher called to his house, can he be believed? There's no one there to cross-examine him. He's described as a shady character, a dodgy character. So how do we know he didn't make it up? How do we know he wasn't sitting at home with his bottle of stout and his packet of crisps and say, oh, look at that, I've done that? How do we know that? It should have been said that the person refuses to come forward. It should have been said Sean Gallagher should have been given an opportunity to rebut it. And the bottom line, folks, is Sean Gallagher received 130,000 of our money paid through the licence fee, for which the state had jailed people up in Mountjoy jail one Monday morning and let them out the following evening. He got 130,000 of that money in settlement. Why would they settle if there was any truth in what was said? You get the point. It was unprofessional. They were not fit for purpose then, and since then they have gone down big time. They're nothing more than a mouthpiece for mass migration, windmills, solar panels, electric cars, climate. That's all they are. They're not fit to be subsidised by our taxes and our licence fee. They didn't deal with that properly. They didn't deal with fairness. And they paid out that money and nobody was called to account. There was no inquiry. Who agreed to this on the programme? Who was the producer? Mr. Kenny was not brought before an Oireachtas committee. And now when they have an Oireachtas, by the way, means Irish government. Now when there is an Irish government or Oireachtas committee sitting, the whole lot of them flee and refuse to come back and give evidence. I hope I've made my case. In the end of the day, a dodgy character, you telling a politician something that happened and giving the details. He called, he collected a photograph, he collected a check. No word who the check was made out to or anything. No cross-examination of that person, or not even a basic inquiry made to see what more there was. If this was dealt with a day or two before, they could have said to McGuinness, you get on to him. What was the check for? How much? It was 5,000. Who was it paid to? Was it night or dark when he came to? Who was with him? What was he driving? And all of that could have been put to the test. Folks, I rest my case. They're not fit for purpose. Full stop. They can't be made fit for purpose. Full stop. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you disagree, and please give the reasons why you disagree in plain, ordinary language underneath. And thank you for those who already contributed. And I apologise for what I think I'm going to continue to do is mark the original video private and take it down altogether. This is just as good and a better one altogether. Bye bye.